Poverty, Jason
There's a power
Upton.
in poverty that breaks principalities and brings the authorities down to their knees.
To their knees.
And at the same time in this world, there's a brewing frustration and ageless temptation to fight for control by some manipulation. But the God of the kingdoms and God of the nations, the God of creation, sent this revelation through the homeless and penniless, Jesus the Son. The poor will inherit the kingdom to come.
Christina, Alex, Joseph, E.S. God bless you all. In Jesus' name.
All of the treasures we stored in our barns can't buy the kingdom of God.
Nope.
And who will we praise when we praised all our lives? Men who build kingdoms and men who build fame, but heaven does not know their names.
Nope. Doesn't know their name.
And what will we feel when all that remains is God on the throne with a child in his arms and love in his eyes?
Light of Jesus. TAC, Factual. The Kool-Aid. How you guys doing? God bless all in Jesus' name. Good. Glad I gave you some laughs. But do pray for her, Azalea Banks. They need it. But then again, don't we all?
The sound of your heart cry. We want to hear the sound. The sound of your heart calling our name. We want to hear the sound.
Yes, Tanya. This is Jason Upton. Again. This is off of his album Live from Dublin. And the song's called Poverty. Good. Amen. You're welcome, Johnny. Peter. If people don't see what I'm showing now, like, which is self-evident, I don't think they want to see it. Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate that, but the algorithm does not like this channel. I have noticed. When it was smaller, they didn't care. Which begs the question, why am I still streaming? Why do I still have a channel? I don't know sometimes. All right, again, that lovely song was by Jason Upton, Upton. It's from his album Live from Dublin, and it's the third track on that album, Poverty. You listen to it on Spotify. I'm sure you can find it here on YouTube as well. Add it to your playlists. I've always enjoyed his music. So today I wanted to do, a video about basically generational occultism, self-explanatory in the title. And I guess I got the idea after doing last night's video on Azalea Banks and showing how in interviews she's talked about how her mother was a practicing witch, and lo and behold, as an adult in Hollywood today, so is she, right? And I just want to show that that story is not unique. We talked about it last night, but it's one thing to talk about a thing and another thing to show folks. What I tried to do in that video was to tie in some of the signs and symbols that she throws up frequently, that they all do all the time. From the monarch butterflies to the, putting your finger over your lips to winking your eye or placing a hand over your eye, all signs and symbols that you are initiated. And for too many who are uninitiated out there in the world today, they have no clue what this stuff is. They see it on magazine covers. They see it on movie posters, but it doesn't register. It just goes right over their head because they have no clue. The world doesn't work that way. They've been told the world works along certain lines, and that would be preposterous to think that the entire world, generally speaking, is sold out to the evil side. Yeah. They don't see it that way. They really do see themselves as enlightened ones who deserve to basically lord over us. And that's why they do a lot of those yoga mudras, like the Uttara Bodhi mudra, which actually we'll see in here today. Which means that they're supremely enlightened, right? And towards the end, I'll go ahead and I'll try to look over chat. This may take a little bit of while. I took some time to kind of utilize the tools that OBS offers me to hopefully make this, maybe to make these kind of live streams a little bit more entertaining than just going over to Pinterest and just showing you picture after picture after picture, to kind of try to make some themes out of what we're doing here. Because the whole point is to actually get as many eyeballs as I can on the content. Not for any other reason, but the world needs to know this stuff. And it's amazing to me, sadly, just how clueless a lot of people are still about it. You're the weird one when you talk about these things. So I figured we'd start with Johnny Depp. I mean, that's not surprising, right? Well-known Hollywood occultist. I mean, you probably can think of his admiration for and friendship with someone like Hunter S. Thompson, who was basically accused of wrongdoings by a man named Paul Benazzi, in a documentary that never saw the light of day. You can find it here on YouTube. It's called Conspiracy of Silence, or sometimes it's called the Franklin Cover-Up. And he kind of fingers Hunter S. Thompson as a guy they picked up in Las Vegas and who filmed basically a snuff film. And it's interesting because Hunter S. Thompson was known to talk about snuff films at times with, I think, his assistant that helped him out there at his Owl Ranch. But anyway, and Johnny too, of course, got the West Memphis 3 along with Natalie Maines of the Dixie Chicks and Winona Ryder and Henry Rollins, all folks that fill up my archive of people that throw up all the signs and symbolism, including Damien Eccles of the West Memphis 3. Again, if you don't know that story, those are three men who spent, I don't know, I think it was something close to 20 years in prison, Damien on death row, for the murder of children. And it was supposed to be under the auspices of like a satanic ritual. And there's a lot of good content out there. As a matter of fact, I've made a few videos on that myself. So just very odd. I think that they came into the rescue for those guys to prove, maybe to themselves, maybe to those who can see these things, that Crowley's magic works. And that you can basically do what you will, do what you want, do what you wilt, and you can get away with it. You know? Damien Eccles today, by the way, lives in Salem, Massachusetts. Fun fact. So here we see Johnny doing the one-eyed symbolism, of course, and we got him here. I mean, we could go on and on showing you stuff, but I'm just going to show you little bits and pieces before we move on to the family members and such. So here he is throwing up three sixes over his one eye. So, you know, that's kind of a slam dunk pose, as Josh Sparrow would say over at his channel. And Johnny has a daughter who's an actress named Lily Rose Depp. And, you know, she has some of the same, she displays some of the same symptoms, of course. So here she is at a Ben & Jerry's. Curious that at Ben & Jerry's ice cream shops, they always have the classic Masonic checkerboard. And she just happens to be covering her eyeball with some Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I'll just say folks who followed Pizzagate might find that a little interesting. Here she is doing, sorry, I'll try to stay in frame. More one-eyed symbolism, in allusion to the Eye of Horus. Somebody said last night, well, couldn't it just be the Eye of Satan? I mean, that's the implication. That's not, I don't believe in a Horus or a Ra, right? It's kind of a given, I hope, when I use the terms that they would use, that what we're referring to is the devil, right? Who goes by many, many, many names. Kali, Shiva, Krishna. Here is Lily Rose Depp doing the devil horns. Right? Or some of you, again, will say that's I love you, but I have, you know, I've seen it so many times over. Not only have I just shown you that there's the other symbolism intact here, but where sometimes it'll be an official flashing of the horns, and then the next it looks like, oh, they're saying I love you. All plausible deniability, but sometimes I point people to that book. I think it's called Blood-Sucking Vampires of Past and Present by a Satanist by the name of Sandra London. And if you go look at her book cover and even some of the pictures inside, she's doing it like that as well. And you tell me that that's what she's conveying and saying. I think not. So here she's again. Looks like the same photo shoot, but just a different angle. Devil horns. And then here she is cutesily wearing devil horns for us, right? Likes to hold up her bags of, I'm not even sure what that is, but holding up bags of food with just happening to make 3 6s. We see that a lot. A lot of times they'll hold up merch, you know, or a shirt or a jersey or something and throw up 3 6s in the way that they're holding it. Absolutely. I never hold things up like this. I never pose for such a photo like that. I don't know about you, but just as we were covering last night with Azalea Banks, you got the Disney working its way in as usual. I was trying to make the point last night. Name me a product. Name me any kind of business that the entire entertainment industry promotes constantly in magazine covers and on their shirts and jackets, you know, wearing Mickey or Minnie Mouse ears and such. Like, it doesn't, I've never seen another company receive such golden treatment, from this industry. And if you look into things, I mean, you know that it's kind of the heart of the beast. We're going to diverge a little bit before we dive further into some of the family lines that we're going to look into here. But I wanted to show you, here she is with Karl Lagerfeld, who died recently. We're going to talk about a little bit here. Who seems to always be, he's sort of like that Terry Richardson, which we'll see in a moment as well. The photographer who you've seen in some of my videos with all of them, right? So he was like a fashion designer and a photographer who kind of revitalized Chanel and its branding and all that. But he seems to be treated with kind of royalty, and he's always a little bit like Hugh Hefner, always getting fawned over by very young models and actors and actresses and singers, and who a lot of times feel like they're a little uncomfortable being there, but almost like it's like a prerequisite or something, like they have to do this. So we'll look at that a little bit here. I mean, here's Jared Leto, right? And Jared Leto, of course, there he is with Terry Richardson, and he's displaying the same symptoms. He's also got like the alchemy air symbol on his tattooed on his arm there. And you know, this guy just throws stuff up constantly. As a matter of fact, let me go. Some of you may or may not have known this, but Jared Leto is basically leading a cult now, where he dresses like Jesus, but it's basically like based around like a meditation style, like retreat / music festival. It's very confusing. He's got his own island where he does this. And so here's a little promo for it. He's got here the text, ready to walk on water. Jared Leto. So let's see. Oh, yes. Oh, I feel the samadhi. Yes, this is deep and meaningful. Oh. Look at them all. They're sort of like, they're a little awkward. They're not sure what's happening. Why they paid for this. But, you know, it's Jared Leto. So there's Karl Lagerfeld covering up his eyeball, like a good old illuminist will do for you, because of course he's one of the enlightened ones. You know, he rules over us, or he did anyway, before he died. I'm sure he's finding out it was well worth it, well worth all the worldly gains he could have. Sure, it was a downer when he learned that Lucifer really wasn't the true light bringer after all, you know. Yeah. Here he is doing either Osiris Risen, or I actually think he's doing something called the Garuda Mudra. And the Garudas were it's like a yoga mudra. But the Garudas were basically like a sunbird in Hinduism. Right? And you'll find over and over again, almost everything they do, no matter which culture they seem to be borrowing from, points back to the sun. Just as a good Freemason would do, right? I mean, that's what the little G inside the little sunburst is, you know? That's why they call, as I've said before, that's why they call the female Freemasons Order of the Eastern Star. Here's Karl holding up a pair of, I guess, fabric scissors, doing little one-eyed symbolism for you as well. Just kind of generally like a creepy dude, right? There's something instinctively in me anyway that like if I were to see this dude, I'd want to run, right? And yet he seems to be sort of like the center of the universe for these folks. Truly. So, I mean, here's Justin Bieber with Carl. Wanted to get that selfie with them. And then, of course, here's Justin. Because who among us hasn't at one point, you know, in the photo album, mom brings out the photo album and we just slap steaks over our eyeball in a shoot where we look like we were beaten severely. No, you never did that? Gosh, you're missing out. This is a model by the name of Kai Gerber, who is very androgynous. It's sort of difficult sometimes, and I appreciate the people who come into the comments. I appreciate why we get a lot of comments about these people are transitioned or they were born a male and are actually, you know, they were inverted in some way. I don't often approve those comments only because, I pretty much agree, but it's kind of speculative at this point. And I want to focus with this channel on things that we can just downright prove. And so when I just don't want people to come into the comment section having watched some of my videos and maybe they're starting to kind of entertain this stuff and say, well, you know, there does seem to be something here, only to then look at the comments and say, oh, it's one of these things. This is way too out there now. Even though, I think there's a whole lot of truth to what is being said, but I'm trying to be skillful in how I do this, how I try to hold this channel. And maybe sometimes just kind of mentioning it is helpful. So here is Kai, who again, very young model, kind of hanging on Carl there on the cover of ID magazine, which every single cover of ID magazine has the model. Sometimes they're singers or actresses. Sometimes they're just models from the fashion industry, doing some version of the one-eyed symbolism. And they've made really bogus claims at times in their pages of the magazine as to why they do it. But I mean, it's pretty obvious why they do it. Especially when you see like something like the cover with Kendrick Lamar, where he's not just doing the one-eyed symbolism, but he's doing the Uttara Bodhi mudra on it as well. So sometimes they'll put a couple of symbolisms in. Here they are. You know, it's just who takes selfies like this? Frankly, who takes selfies much? If you're somebody out there who's watching this who takes a lot of selfies, as somebody who used to do that all the time, that's an illness. Okay. It's called narcissism. Right. And, but yeah, just, oh, it's time to take a selfie. Let me post this to Instagram, throwing up the devil horns. Here he is with, Kristen Stewart, who I think has come out as lesbian now, I think, and talked about how the industry pressured her to hide her sexual preference. Again, another somewhat androgynous actress, somebody in the industry. And then, of course, here's Kristen Stewart throwing up the sign of the horns for us, devil horns, and covering up her eyeball with a makeup case. Who does this, right? we see it all the time, unfortunately. But ironically, at the same time, before I came to know these things, I'd seen this stuff before, but it doesn't register. You see it here, you see it there, and you never took the time to sit down and like connect all the dots and start to say like, whoa, this is like not only a thing, but then you can start to trace it back to the occult. And that's when it starts to really have pretty serious implications. And if you're on, as we'll see as we go forward in this too, if you're on the fence, at a time when the so-called New World Order, which is a very old world order, frankly, it's been around for several hundred years, at least in its most recent incarnation. If you're looking around at world events and you're buying the fact that like these, what we're told in the news about pandemics and all that, if you just buy that stuff wholesale without stepping back and weighing, well, what's the angle here? Like, what's the agenda? It's biblical. This is biblical stuff. And like, Jesus warned us about it. All the truth that we need to know is in the Bible, but hardly anybody's even read the thing. I didn't even read any of the Bible really until I was 38 years old. I used to say, oh, it's just boring. Well, it was, why it was boring is because I didn't want the truth. I wanted to sin. So it's boring to anybody who doesn't want the truth. And it's just so ironic that there's so many people that go off to a Jared Leto retreat, or a Buddhist retreat or whatever else in search of some kind of enlightenment and in search of the truth, and they never get it. It's just constantly chasing some dangling treat that never manifests. So we as humans, we want that so badly. Like, we want the truth, but so many people, are so scared of the implications of this, or just so want to sin, that like it's got to be any truth but Jesus, because they have a certain spirit. Here he is with Cara Delevingne. She's a model and an actress. Cara, kind of like that rapper Youngblood, or he's not a rapper, he's a kinda. Sometimes he raps, he sings. Like Bieber, there's a few of them who just, Aurora, that's a singer, I think from, don't hold me, I think it's Sweden, who just throws up the symbolism like as often as they possibly can, right? So this is a weird one. And I've got photos of her like kind of just walking, holding hands with Carl. And another androgynous model. We'll see some photos, and if you go looking into her and just start looking at photo archives, you'll start to be like, on the one hand, some of them you're like, oh, that, they look very feminine. And then on others, you're like, wow, I think that's a man, I think that's a boy. But holding up a Karl Lagerfeld doll. And then here, I had posted this to the community page a little while back, and that is her holding up a Karl Lagerfeld keychain, right? While she just happens to be sticking out her tongue in a way. Let's enlarge this a little bit. Well, let's bring it over here. Just look at that face and you tell me that something ain't coming through there. And just take note of what her hand's doing. See anything? See like 3 6s that we show? Yep. Here's Cara doing the one-eyed symbolism. Holding up a glass of wine over her eye. And here's a good example of where here's Kara without all the makeup and stuff. Let's enlarge that one a little bit. Look. Throwing up the horns, but looks like a young man. Just keeping it real. I mean, no hate towards a person. Just looks like a man. And I think that she or he would be first to say that's true. I think they kind of like this. They enjoy confusing everyone. Here is Carl with Rihanna. Again, Rihanna. I mean, it's kind of starting to feel like Harvey Weinstein a little bit, right? I believe that he was probably a very high-ranking handler in the whole scheme of things. So with Rihanna, who of course, throws up the symbolism constantly. I mean, we could spend all day practically just covering Rihanna and the weirdness and craziness that's there. Devil horns, right? So Karl Lagerfeld is definitely one strange dude, right? And, here are just some of the, Mariah Carey there, right? We saw Beyonce. Just sort of seems to always be there. If there's like an elitist party happening, there he is. And there everybody is kind of lining up to get their picture taken. Partly probably because it would get them good work at Chanel, right? But on that, I think that's Naomi Campbell, I believe. That is Lily Rose Depp again. It's Johnny Depp's daughter. Who like Cara. I mean, Cara is in photos with him all the time. Willow Smith right there. Who actually has, we're going to look at that family here in a little while. But Willow, in one of her rap songs, is talking about like opening the Eye of Horus. Go look that up. Speaking of the Eye of Horus in positive terms, right? So this is something that Karl Lagerfeld, and then we're going to move on. But I find him very interesting, kind of side rabbit hole all unto himself. And we could go on and on. I just kind of wanted to share that with you because when you're doing this research, sometimes you encounter certain faces and people over and over again that really kind of stand out to you. And he's certainly one of those individuals. And so I thought, well, we'll knock that out as well. So this is he's talking about the Me Too movement and Harvey Weinstein. So when asked if Me Too, which by the way, I'm not a big fan of, simply because, not because I don't think that there's abuses happening, but because when people like Rose McGowan and others in Asia Argento are spearheading this stuff, I have real questions because they are throwing up the symbolism constantly in Asia, comes from, what certainly appears to be generational Satanism. I mean, her father he's made a career out of making horror films and with the theme of like devil sacrifices and human sacrifices. And they even have like father-daughter photo shoots together where like Asia is like covering the eyeball of her dad, Dario, so I just don't trust, I don't trust anything that comes out of this system, right? They're always, you can just guarantee that whatever it is, kernel of truth or not, agenda laden, they're coming to push something. So when asked if Me Too and Time's Up has affected his work, he said, absolutely not. The German added, I read somewhere that now you must ask a model if she is comfortable with posing. It's simply too much. From now on, as a designer, you can't do anything. As for the accusations against the poor Carl Templer, creative director at Interview magazine, I don't believe a single word of it. A girl complained he tried to pull her pants down, and he is instantly excommunicated from a profession that up until then had venerated him. It's unbelievable. If you don't want your pants pulled about, don't become a model. Join a nunnery. There'll always be a place for you in the convent. They're recruiting even. You know? So interesting observations, probably, maybe a little nervous about himself, possibly. Let's put it that way. And, doesn't want to give anybody the idea like, hey, not me next. Right. Cause you just get that, you know, you get a certain feeling from him. He actually left his inheritance to his cat. Let's have a look.
Let's change directions a little bit. Designer Karl Lagerfeld, who was the creative director for Chanel for over 30 years, died in 2019 at the age of 85, and it was rumored that his beloved cat, Choupette, was going to inherit his fortune.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, guys, hey, all you cat haters, you're gonna.
Yeah, all you cat haters. Anyway, I'll just point out that like folks who've gone through like the MK Ultra stuff, like have an obsession with cats. Like sometimes they have cat alter personalities. They're always wearing the leopard print, as we'll see as we go forward today. But just kind of interesting, kind of a sort of a side fact to mention.
Love a cat here real quick because this cat may inherit between $200 and $500 million.
Gee.
So who gets to take care of
Cure world hunger,
because the story gets even
feed the homeless.
Now, it looks like there may be a
well, you know,
fight.
leave your cat $300 to $500 million.
Now it turns out there are actually 7 heirs. Now there's the cat, of course, we just discussed. There's also a male model, a couple of those, a godson, and the housekeeper who was supposed to take care of the wealthy cat. But now, Carl's 87-year-old accountant, really the only one who can determine who gets what amount of money and when, has disappeared, completely gone missing.
He's probably
At 87, you might want to make sure he's still alive.
Apparently they talked to his wife. His wife says, "Oh no, darling, there's nothing shady."
they're not going to let no $300 to $500 million go to a cat.
Did she say that before she drove up in her Bentayga? Because she might have been with him. Okay, now she over there.
All right. Anyway, annoying pop culture reporting occurring here. We only play it for the information. So, next part of this video, we're going to dive into, you know, some of the families within Hollywood, all names that you'll probably be familiar with who have had children. Some of those children you're going to be familiar with. Some of these may be new to you. Some of these were new to me as I was kind of putting this thing together. People I'd already had in my archive, but I was like, really? That's the son or daughter of so-and-so? I didn't know that. And it, you know, the light bulb goes like, oh, you know, interesting. So we have, Bruce and Demi Moore, of course, before there was Ashton and Demi. There was Bruce and Demi. And Demi, of course, was famous for that movie, Ghost with Patrick Swayze, and Bruce has been in all kind, too many diehards and all that. But they had a daughter together, named Rumor Willis. And of course there's Bruce doing the one-eyed symbolism, and here's Demi doing the one-eyed symbolism as well. Let's see if they passed anything on to their daughter, Rumor. We'll see. So there's a younger Rumor pulling the hat down over her one eye for the one-eyed symbolism, the Eye of Horus. There she is again, doing it. And again, I'm just going to say, if you look into Rumor, like, kind of androgynous at times. Like, you definitely presenting as female. But you know, just look around. And there she is in the leopard print, right? It's blue. It's more fashionable here. You see it in all kinds of varieties, but it always rears its head. Always rears its head. Sometimes, you know, when I'm looking, sometimes I'm not finding the slam dunk, you know, covering their eyeball, but you'll always find the leopard print. And whenever you find the leopard print in absence of some of the others, you find a ton of it a lot of times, as we'll see in today's video. John Travolta. John Travolta doing the one-eyed symbolism here. Of course, John Travolta is involved in Scientology, and if you look into that, Scientology is connections to the Process Church of Final Judgment, has been written about in some of Fritz Springmeier's books about being basically a mind control front organization for what we call the Illuminati. And so he's been connected with that, and he has a daughter named Ella Blue Travolta. And let's see if anything got passed on to Ella Blue. Oh, she just likes to peek out from behind plants during her photo shoots, because that's normal. It's totally normal. You know? I don't think I could even find, you might be able to find like an incidental or accidental one-eyed photo in your photo albums from someone. But I'd be hard-pressed to find this kind of stuff. And yet there's nothing original about it. It's weird. It's creepy. It's creepy. When you see an archive like the one, for instance, I've amassed, which at this point has close to 50,000 photos at this point. It's creepy. It's super creepy. I mean, I find the work at this point boring. It's monotonous, and yet you keep doing it because it's just, you know, that's sometimes what it takes. Finally, it gets through somebody's thick noggin, and they see the world for what it is, instead of listening to these dopes who are telling you what the world is. So you remember Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, right? Tom and Nicole were an item. And then, of course, Tom and, what's her name? Katie Holmes. Katie Holmes throws up the symbolism as well. Had Suri. But before Suri, Tom and Nicole, Tom's seen here doing the 3 6s, or he's just saying everything's A-okay, right? Mm-hmm. And Nicole doing the one-eyed symbolism. But they had a daughter named Isabella Cruz together. And Isabella Cruz likes to cruise around town with her eyeball in the pyramid tattoo that she got on her arm. Because, you know, she's illuminated like that. She's been initiated. Kind of like how Willow and Jaden Smith of the Smith family kind of have an inside joke about, like, he and his sister started their own secret society and all this. Like, it's so funny. You guys know something we don't know. You're so cool. And I'm sorry to be so mocking, but it's just they're generally speaking just not terribly bright people. I don't know where they get off saying how they're so enlightened. It's just a deception. They're deluded. They're completely deluded. And then she also likes to walk around town. Again, this is Tom and Nicole's daughter, with her eyeball shirts. You know, it's always in. And I'm sure if I did more digging, I'd find her doing some of the other symbolism. I'm not sure. I don't think she's actually famous for anything. So it doesn't, I want to make that clear as well. I think she's maybe considered like a socialite, or kind of like a Paris Hilton or something. But it doesn't matter, famous or not. If you were somehow in these family lines, like, you're going to display the same symptoms as well. Because it's not about, oh, this is limited to Hollywood. No, Hollywood by default has to be staffed by these folks, but it's not limited. It doesn't stop there, is what I'm saying. This is a problem that is, frankly, in your local town, which we've talked about plenty of times. It's in your local area somewhere. If you have a local, let's just keep it real. Like, if you got a local Masonic lodge or a Order of the Eastern Star lodge, like, it's in your area. You better know it. And they think they're the true patriots. And yet they're about to bring in, this global government. It's bizarre. But they told us on our money what their plans were. So that to them is patriotism. They hoodwinked us and they told us, you're a Christian nation. Or at least Christians have somehow, frankly, because they believe a lie, that we're some great Christian nation. And it's just an outright myth. And it always has been. But it sounds nice. Gosh, wouldn't that be great? Denzel Washington. So Denzel Washington here is what we've been talking about the whole time. This is called the Uttara Bodhi Mudra. It comes from Tantrism. Tantrism, if you didn't know, is found in Hinduism and Buddhism, and it's magic. It's the stuff, if you know anything about the Dalai Lama, he practices Vajrayana Buddhism, which is basically Tibetan Buddhism. And you go through different levels of initiation. It's all secret initiations. And it's magic. Look into it. They talk about, like, flying gurus and sages. And they try to play that stuff down, but, like, that's part of their writings. And if you're completely asleep out there, you're like, oh, of course that's not real. Yeah, well, I guess conjuring up frogs in Exodus, not real. Here's Denzel doing the one-eyed symbolism. Of course, Denzel has a son who's an actor as well. And his name is John David Washington. And John is a little bit less shy, shall we say, with displaying his symbolism than his father. Although if you do your looking, you'll find, I got Denzel doing the sign of Hippocrates as well several times. And some of the other poses. But John is a little bit less shy, shall we say. So here he is doing the one-eyed symbolism. Who would have thought? Gosh, I'm sure it has nothing to do with Hollywood and all that. And I know you've all heard this before, but, like, Hollywood is what the witches like to fashion their wands out of. Harry Potter's wand was made out of Hollywood, the wood of holly. The Druids fashioned their wands out of it because it was supposed to be more conducive to magical practices. Here he is doing the hidden hand of a Freemason, sometimes called the Master of the Second Veil. It's the sign of a Master of the Second Veil. I should say, that's the technical term, and we sometimes call it the hidden hand. And you'll see all your world leaders doing this. Sometimes in their oil paintings or whatever. You'll see sometimes, I remember on the cover of a book by the founder, about the founder of the Quakers, there he is doing the hidden hand of a Freemason. It's embedded in our world's DNA because guess what? The Bible tells us, for we know we are of God, and the whole world is in the hands of the evil one. That was not an exaggeration. That was not an understatement. It's perfectly stating the situation we find ourselves in. However, the witches, the occultists, these secret society members have been busy, hard at work, keeping you blind to their very existence. You're a muggle. You don't even, you couldn't walk through that wall if you wanted anyway. You're uninitiated. Here is John David Washington, Denzel Washington's son, doing the sign of Osiris Risen. You'll find this both in Freemasonry and Crowley's Ordo Templi Orientis. Judy Garland, right? Judy Garland was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Toto. So, she's doing a little one-eyed symbolism here. Sometimes they do that with their hair. And of course, Judy Garland had a very famous daughter. Some of you probably know this in the chat, but it's Liza Minnelli, who's been on Broadway and acted in different movies and such. But Liza Minnelli doing some weird thing with a metal contraption, I don't even know what that is, to her eyeball. And here she is throwing up the 3 6s. Oh no, I'm sorry. She's just saying, hey guys, everything's A-okay. Or maybe because the media likes to gaslight us. And heck, maybe Brian Williams will be the one who reports this to us, like who we're going to look at here in a moment. The news anchor. Maybe he's the one that tells us, no, that's an alt-right symbol. Or there's always some other meaning. Oh, no, that means metal hands, Always some other meaning they like to come up with these things. Steven Spielberg, right? Now, I didn't include his other daughter, the adopted daughter, who's basically become a porn actress. And he's like cool with it. No problem. I can't even imagine my dad would flip. And I think most fathers out there would flip if they learned that their daughter was getting involved with porn. Anyway, you might notice we got Steven here doing what Denzel was doing just a moment ago. And again, this means ultimate enlightenment or supremely enlightened, right? This is them. It's a very covert version. It's a very covert way for them to do it. It's not as flashy as devil horns or throwing 3 6s over your eyeball. For those who have a more, they like to be a little more low key. This is one of the ways that they talk to one. I remember I called someone out in one of my past videos. I'll just say this. I'm not going to name them because it's not worth it. There's only been a handful of videos where I did this. But I basically showed that they were throwing up a lot of the symbolism. Oh, and they did this response video back to me about how they're not. And like right at the very start, they flash up several of the signs, and one of them is this, the Uttara Bodhi Mudra. And I called them out on that, and they had nothing to say about it, because they don't care. They just operate with impunity. For now. So Steven Spielberg, director, E.T., very well known. Here's his daughter, his other daughter, Destiny. This is his blood daughter. Destiny Spielberg. I think she's a model / socialite. I mean, the metric's not real high. In Hollywood, really all you have to do is be related to somebody who's famous, and you can make a living off of being photographed by the paparazzi. Just for having the name you do. It's so sad, isn't it? That is a pathetic indictment upon our culture, but hey. Here she is as a young girl, covering up her eyeball with the donut. And we've seen Candace Cameron, Kirk Cameron's sister, doing this. Cody Shane, the rapper, she puts donuts up over her eyeball. Again, just like we were talking about earlier about the ice cream, like people that might have looked into Pizzagate might find this somewhat interesting. Hint, hint. And of course, sticking out the tongue, which seems to be a particular disorder among them. And I'm not sure if you can see this real well, but here she is in her PJs. And I hope you can see what she's wearing. This is, rumor had the blue. She's got the pink leopard print. Because it's cutesy. It's girly. It's cutesy time. Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith, right? Ah, yes. The pinnacle of sort of the Cleaver family. Leave it to Beaver. You know? Oh, the Fresh Prince was wholesome. It was a wholesome show. Almost like the Cosby Show of its time. And, the Fresh Prince, he rapped wholesome. He doesn't sound like modern day rappers who are trapping or trilling, right? It was clean. It was good, wholesome, family entertainment kind of stuff, right? I remember he was on a Travis Smiley interview and he was talking about alchemy and he was like, 2 + 2 is only 2 if I say it is. What are you talking? I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know how it works. Sir, I have not entered the Typhonian tunnels as you have. Or as you may have. Jada Pinkett Smith, throwing up the sign of the horns, devil horns. Will Smith. This is, I wanted to use this one and we'll see it a little bit later with another individual. This is a yet to be identified pose, but I've done a past video on this. And, it's funny because there were 2 contestants on, American Idol this last season who had a tattoo of someone doing this. The one woman had it on her neck and the other one had it tattooed on their arm. And it was interesting because if you went looking into it, like there were a couple of internet or forums where people were discussing this because, people are celebrity obsessed. And I happened to read it because in a roundabout way, I kind of am too. I'm just simply trying to come at it from a different angle and expose it and help you guys see these things. But, people were saying, oh, they must like Taylor Swift's, tour that she did because that was on her posters for the tour. And then another guy came on. Oh, no. It's not that. Like, a 21-year-old tattoo artist over in Europe came up with that because I saw it in some of his artwork. No. Hundreds of photos of them all doing this. It's not that. And the smoking gun, because you always sometimes find the smoking gun photo is of one of the world's most famous outwardly, practicing witches who's dead now, named Sybil Leek. We have photos of doing it, right? So it's tied to witchcraft. Okay. Make no mistake about it. Don't get it twisted. So here's Willow. Again, Willow, who raps about the Eye of Horus, looking somewhat dissociated here, to be honest, like nobody's home. You kind of get that sense sometimes from these folks. Nobody's home. And then her brother, Jaden Smith, who started out with Pursuit of Happiness. And then he did that, Karate Kid, I think, with, he got to start in acting, but then his movies just started plummeting because he, I guess was kind of cute when he was younger, but he's just not a very good actor. And then I guess he's now like got a career as a rapper, but it's just not good music. Like most of the modern rap anyway is not good music. Just that has nothing to do with racial lines or anything. It's just, I'm basing that off of the messaging that you see coming out of the industry. Right. And I don't just hold them to account. Unfortunately, some people have gotten confused in my videos at times because I have a series on trending music, or trending, music videos essentially that are trending here on YouTube. And sometimes people have watched that series and come away with this idea that I somehow like have picked on black artists unfairly or something. It's like, no. The whole setup of that is what is trending on YouTube, and that is what's trending on YouTube. At whatever particular time I'm making one of those videos. It's totally unfair. I mean, if you come and look at the output I've done on this channel, it's clearly not anything racial. Like you will see, I mean, just watch today's video for evidence of it. Lionel Richie. Hey, you noticing a sign or a symbol that he's throwing up that we've seen twice now? We saw Steven Spielberg and Denzel doing this one. So he chose to do this, but it's just happenstance on the cover of his album. Oh, it's just a pose. He didn't mean anything by it. On the cover of his album. Uttara Bodhi Mudra. And of course, he's got his daughter, who is a socialite. I mean, she's famous for kind of nothing. Reality TV shows and stuff like that. Nicole Richie, covering up her eyeball with the flower here. Right? This is, hang on here. It is, let me go back so I can read this. Stellan Skarsgård. Okay? Now I've seen this guy before. He's a character actor essentially. So he's one of those actors in Hollywood. Some of you may know who he is, but who you've seen in movies and you're like, oh, I know that face, but you may not have known the name. So, but of course you may know his son, Alexander Skarsgård, who's seen here on the cover of Out magazine, doing the one-eyed symbolism. And here he is again, another photo shoot doing it. And now interrupting you with the nightly news broadcast from Brian Williams, your trusty news anchor in a suit and tie. Because you can trust them. You can trust them when they dress like that. You know, clearly they're telling the truth. So here's Brian Williams, right? And his daughter, Allison Williams, is an actress. Of course, let's see. She's pictured here in the middle. So here she is in the Hollywood Reporter, covering up half of her face. Here she is in a movie she was in called The Perfection. This is the cover for it. Covering up her eyeball with a cello or a violin. I think it looks like a cello. Starting to see a theme or a pattern? If you're still skeptical and still with us at this point in the video, hopefully maybe somebody drug you along to, hey, watch this with me or something. And you still can't see the stuff? Like, I can't make it any easier for you to see it. John Voight, his daughter Angelina Jolie. Now I don't have John Voight yet, but I know it's out there. Clint Eastwood was another one who, man, it took forever to find the stuff. But when you do, you get in the right archives, you find it. Because I've just learned at any point now, like it's a given. It's just a given. But we got his daughter. That's doing the sign of Osiris Risen right there. Evangelina Jolie covering up her eyeball for you in a photo shoot. And on and on. I mean, you got... She's all over the place. What's that, Dave?
Let me ask you this. What is happening in Hollywood?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I have no idea. Jerry Stiller and his son Ben Stiller, both comedians. Ha ha ha, so funny. Oh, it's so funny. We're having such a blast on this ride, aren't we? There's Ben. Hey, Ben, that's real funny right there. Wow, that's comedic gold. Master of the Second Veil. Hidden hand of a Freemason. Oh, that's funny too. Ha ha ha. Let's get the laugh track going. Oh, that's a good one, Ben. Oh man, I love that scene in Something About Mary when Cameron Diaz has something on her face, whatever. So godly, but the world's just like, hey man, that ain't satanic. Just like I didn't see it as that. I was just like, oh man, this is a funny movie. You, Satan, we got to hand it to you, man. You sure do got the wool pulled over people's eyes. But it's only when you point it out that they start to say, like, oh, yeah, maybe you're right. But, I mean, maybe you're not ready to give it all up. Maybe you like your porn still and your whatever it is. Here is, oh goodness, I got to go back again. This is Debbie Reynolds, and she was married to a man named Eddie Fisher, right? Here she is, old lady, throwing up the horns. And she is the mother, she and Eddie were the mother of Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher. And here's Carrie Fisher doubling down on a little symbolism here, doing the one-eyed Eye of Horus, and then also the rose, right? Which always has been an indicator of secrecy within the occult. You can look up something called Sub Rosa. There's a little Wikipedia article about it. And the rose has actually been an emblem of, guess who? You'll never guess. Horus. Which is what they're doing with their eye, too. Huh. Interesting. It's just a coincidence. You still asleep out there? Are you? Sorry. There's Princess Leia. Gosh, we've seen this 1,000 times. We had no idea, though. How would I know? I was like 6, 7 years old collecting Star Wars figures. I didn't know anything about the world. How the hell would I know what she's doing here? Sign of Osiris Risen. Turns out John Todd's sounding like he was telling a lot more truth than anybody gave him credit for back in the day. He vastly understated the issue, frankly, because he was specifying certain programs. But he did say, at least, he said, if they're on your TV screen, like, you can just check them off. But he kind of specified Star Wars specifically, and it's just sort of like, man, this is just an industry wide. It's a given for every movie set, But at least it planted a seed. And I think probably the reason why maybe he drew attention to Star Wars is because it's so ripe with witchcraft themes, right? The Force, this nebulous force, the black magician and the white magician, right? You can tap into the morality of things is sort of nebulous and up in the air always. And you can tap into it and use it. It's like this energy that you can use for either good or bad. It's up to you. And a true Jedi will harness both within, the yin and yang, become the yin and yang. That's their religion. That's how they deliver their religion to us through their main propaganda outlet, which is, again, Hollywood. They've been brainwashing us left and right. And when I say Hollywood, I'm including that industry Brian Williams works for. You think his daughter became like that just by happenstance? You think it's just by coincidence that Anderson Cooper spent, several months working for the CIA in college? So there's an element to that there as well, like, because those lines are blurry. Spook, occultist, right? Freemason, obelisk, in homage to our first president. Interesting layout we have there in good old DC. Carrie Fisher doing the sign of Hippocrates. And guess what? It doesn't stop there in this particular family. Carrie Fisher is the mother of an actress by the name of Billie Lourd. Here she is with Billie having a mother-daughter moment, right? But Billie has an affinity for the leopard print. Huh. Imagine that. I mean, surely that's all that there is to it. Oh. She also likes to do a little wink wink while she's wearing, did you notice? The leopard print. Oh, I'm just making stuff up here. Just imagining things, right? We're seeing things, connecting dots that aren't there. Ah, yes, the Beckham family. Sorry. David Beckham. Footballer. Athlete. Who wouldn't want to be that guy? I mean, he'll sell you some cologne, make you smell great. Victoria Beckham. Spice Girls. They have a son, right? They have a son by the name of Brooklyn. Here's David throwing up 3 6s over his eyeball. Here's the Spice Girl Victoria. Doing the hidden hand of a Freemason. Women can't be Freemasons, really. That's exactly what the Order of the Eastern Star refers to themselves as. And I don't see the male Masons causing a scene who always had to be present during those ceremonies. You really think when we're talking about this level of deception, which I'm trying to show you over and over again, do you really think that they're just going to be like truthful about things? Just totally upfront and out in the open about everything? The world doesn't operate in this anal retentive context. Just like the thing with the devil horns that we were showing. Then it's the I love you horns, right? It just doesn't, it's everything's just not all nice and neat like that. But here's their son. He's a model. You know, doing the one-eyed symbolism. Here he is again. Doing it again. That's what happens. That's what happens when you're raised by a David Beckham and a Victoria Beckham. That's the outcome. It's going to always be that way. Because that's how this thing's passed along. That's why you see all this weird leopard print stuff. Because the programming starts when they're children. Straight up. You thought the devil played fair. Or, no, you didn't actually really think that. You just actually think there is no devil. And there's no God either. Woo, man. I know, you probably are out there thinking like, oh, this is the Great Awakening. We're going through the human ascension process. Tommy Hanks. Oh, Tommy Hanks. First celebrity with COVID-19. He thinks you're an idiot if you don't wear your mask. I mean, that's the least you could do if you cared about other human beings, of course. Who likes to leave creepy Instagram photos of little kids' socks or just weird items that he hashtags Hanksy or something like that. Weird. Creepy. He's got 2 sons, at least. I haven't looked into the whole family tree. But he's got Colin Hanks, who's an actor. Colin's just letting you know everything's A-okay, right? Now you may say, well, come on, man. Like every instance is not. Well, let's look at Colin's brother. Chet Hanks. Chet, he's a rapper. I'm sure he's terribly gifted. The Tupac of our times. And then here's Chet. I don't know if you can see the tattoo on his chest real well, but that's what we saw on Isabella Cruz a while back. That's what you see on the back of your dollar bill, that great seal of the United States. In God we trust. Oh, really? I've heard Christians even, because they want to be patriotic, try to explain away that thing as I've heard it's actually the symbol for the Trinity. Yeah, it's kind of curious. You got all these terribly ungodly people promoting it. Don Johnson, Miami Vice. Melanie Griffith. and their daughter, Dakota Johnson. Right? That's one I didn't know. I didn't put that together. I wanted to be like Don Johnson as a kid. You know, I remember I had to be like 12 probably at the time when that show was on. But I don't know if you remember this, but in Miami Vice, he always wore like a white suit unbuttoned with like a blue t-shirt underneath. And so I dressed like that. That was my Sunday church outfit. It only worked on him. Doesn't work on a 12-year-old boy. So Don Johnson, here you go. He's just playing a little peekaboo with cucumbers for you. We got him, we don't have time to go over all the photos that we have in the archive. Got him doing the hidden hand of a Freemason. Don't have anything of Melanie Griffith, and I'm sure I could if I went looking, but this video is already enough work. Dakota Johnson, sign of Harpocrates, vow of silence. The sign of Harpocrates, just in case you're new to all this, I reintroduce these concepts each time. Harpocrates is the Greco-Roman version of, can you guess it? Just like the rose, just like the one-eyed stuff, can you guess? It's the Greco-Roman version of Horus, sun god. Oh, Garuda Mudra, India, sun. Horus, sun. We'll even see a little peacock here in a little bit. The Yazidis, the peacock angel. Sun. Aleister Crowley thought the Yazidis' god was the god of Thelema. He wrote about that. Dakota Johnson telling us everything's A-OK. Or maybe she's an alt-right racist, right? No. That's the, let's get it over here. That's the sign of success in Hollywood. That is the sign of your success. Reverend Run of Run DMC. Oh, that's back when rap was wholesome. No, that's when it's like the Elvis effect, right? Oh, that's back when rock and roll was pretty innocent. It's always been the devil's game. Like, he pushes the envelope as far as he can with each generation. So he went as far as he could with an Elvis at the time. He goes as far as he can with the Run DMC because he knows the next torchbearer can lower the bar just a little bit more. This one's going to rap about women and a little bit of sex and all that, or maybe they'll do the LL Cool J style, like, we're not going to handle it with guns, but we're going to, mama said knock you out, right? That's considered wholesome, according to like our bizarre modern standards. Gosh, I don't know how we got to Lil Wayne and Lil Baby. The Exorcist looks quaint these days. Rosemary's Baby. Gosh, how did we get to the movies we got out today? God, I don't know. Man, it's almost like this is all happening according to a plan or something. So Reverend Run, by the way, Reverend Run's doing like a sign of fidelity right there, but we'll forgive that. We'll ignore that. But we won't ignore that. That's on the cover of Jet magazine with his family. And he's doing the sign of a master of the second veil, hidden hand. This is the brother of course, Russell Simmons of Def Jam, record mogul. And here's Ron with Russell Simmons throwing up that sign of the horns, right? Devil horns. And he has a son named Diggy Simmons. He's a rapper as well. Diggy just likes to get on Instagram and post selfies of the one-eyed little wink. He's just winking. That's all it is. Don't think too hard on that one. I mean, this is E.J. Johnson. He's literally a socialite. Okay. That's it. Son, who appears to really wish that he was daughter of Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson, of course, in college at Michigan State was number 33, and as a Laker at number 32. You know, anybody who knows anything about Scottish Rite Masonry, it goes up to 32 degrees, and then there's an honorary 33rd degree that you can receive as well. But here's EJ. Gosh, it seems like such a healthy environment that these people grow up in. Yeah. But hey, Jazz Jennings doing well. Jazz Jennings got her own TV show, and she transitioned. I mean, she's only had like 3 operations since that transitioning, and, you know, she's complaining because she has no stimulation. Because, you know, Jazz Jennings was a boy and then became a girl. Right, and expected, listen to the doctors. Well, oh yeah, we'll give you sensation down there. We'll make you a woman. And lo and behold, who could have predicted it? She's not getting it because she's not a girl. Like, she literally mutilated her male genitalia. This world is just sick, man, and we're it's like you're an evil parent if you don't go along with that stuff. Eric Roberts. You know, Eric Roberts is the father of Emma Roberts. We often think of Emma Roberts as the niece of Julia Roberts, which is true, but all in the family, right? Eric Roberts is an actor as well. You've probably seen that man in movies. Again, you may not have known his name or whatever, but you've seen him before. Right? So here's Eric Roberts. Shh. Don't tell. I won't tell. He's saying, I'm an initiate. I'm one of you. Don't worry. Why do they, I mean, really? It really must come down to something to do with keeping like the ball of fog and confusion over the masses, because they already know. It's like they don't have to communicate with the others who they are, because anybody who's made it, all the others who made it know who, you know, it's a given. So it's not a mystery to any of them. Here's Julia. We got plenty of other stuff in the archive, but we're just going to show one. Julia Roberts. This is Emma Roberts' aunt. Doing the sign of Osiris Risen. You know? And here's Emma. Who, like some of the others we've covered today, somewhat androgynous. In many of the photos, like in this, it's like, yeah, it's very strongly, okay, I'm getting feminine. But hang out in those archives for a while, and you'll start to have some questions. There's Emma again. Covering up her eye with an Easter egg. And interestingly, did you know that the egg is a symbol for Isis? You know, of the Osiris and Horus myth. Well, now you do. And there's Emma out and about. But these things don't exist. Don't worry about it. But out and about. Maybe she's just punk rock with her 666 tank top on. You know? I'm sure we all have that in our dresser drawer. Okay, this is Susan Sarandon and her daughter Eva Amuri. So there they are together. Eva is an actress. There's Susan. She's just playing a little peekaboo with us. Peekaboo. I'm at the optometrist. There's not a whole lot we can say about these things anymore. I'm limited. I'm limited in my comedic arsenal because it's not funny. Here is her daughter, Eva, from a past marriage, at home in her bed. And did you notice the bedspread? Leopard print. Do you notice her skirt? Leopard print. Hey, Eva, interesting blouse shirt you have on. Leopard print. Nice jacket. Leopard print. Oh, touching mother and daughter moment. Leopard print. We're just imagining things again. Hey, let's go back to sleep. Hey, everything's okay. No problem. Mick Jagger and Georgia May Jagger. His daughter's a model. You get to be a model. I mean, you get to be a model. You can choose your gender as long as you're, your dad's like in the Rolling Stones or Aerosmith, as we'll see in a little while. Yeah. As long as you have the right, bloodline, the right seed. Mick Jagger covering his eyeball. And of course, this is coming from the man that sang the song Sympathy for the Devil. Please allow me to introduce myself. What did you expect? The devil to be a fool? A dullard? An idiot? What, is Jesus a liar to you? He called him the father of all lies. So you think small, huh? You think small lies. He couldn't pull one over on me. Ha. He's had thousands of years to develop a game plan. And you're new to this world. He's not. There's his daughter, Georgia May, on the cover of ID magazine again. There she is again. Another photo shoot. Jay and Silent Bob, Kevin Smith, with his daughter, Harley Quinn Smith. I'm sorry. Harley Quinn. So here's Kevin. Oh, but he's Silent Bob, so that makes sense. It's kind of like that's why Charlie Chaplin did it too. And I'm sure that's why Charlie Chaplin also threw up the hidden hand of a Freemason as well and his stuff. Maybe. Oh, well, he's into metal. Rock and roll, man. He likes Kiss. It's no big deal. Just likes Kiss, right? Let's see about Harley Quinn. Bet Harley Quinn ended up well. Oh. Harley Quinn in the leopard print swimsuit. Harley Quinn in because you got to have the leopard print collar. But it's to fulfill your wardrobe dreams, you would wear the leopard print undershirt as well. But that's not enough. Why stop there? I need the little kind of overcoat thingy to wear as well. Thinking of that Eartha Kitt song, like they say that I'm a witch. Yeah, we know. And we're sorry. I'm sorry that you were born into this. There's an element in all this where you just feel pity and sad for these people. So Kai Gerber, who we were looking at earlier with Karl Lagerfeld, well, she's actually the daughter. We'll just go with she, okay? Is the daughter of Cindy Crawford, who probably needs no introduction. You're Cindy. Just like John David Washington. Just doing a little wink wink. That's all it is. She's crossing her arms, it's not Osiris risen. Come on. It's getting to the point where nobody can put their hands anywhere, man. We see you. We see you. Some of us do, anyway. And we get it. You see us as well. Kai Gerber. We already showed the other ones. Devil horns and all that. Leopard print. Leopard print. And on the cover of ID magazine again. More one-eyed symbolism. Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. Oh, they're like a power couple. They're like the not quite as big as the Jada and Will, but kind of like a Paul Newman story, like a marriage that lasted the test of time. Right? So Goldie's got she's just a little shy. And Kurt, of course, I'm sure there's no symbolism in here where we've seen like druid rituals where like the main witch is dressed up like the Statue of Liberty. And that like Kurt Russell often has to assume roles where he's wearing an eye patch. I'm sure it's nothing. Don't worry about it. Kate Hudson. Got a little hair in your eye, Kate. Yep. Again, you might want to get that off your forehead. We could call over a makeup specialist or a hairstylist and make sure, because that seems to be kind of like stupid. Oh, you want it that way? Oh, we want it that way. Oh, okay. Oh, they all do this. I got you. It's important that this is in the photo shoot. I see. Donald Sutherland, Kiefer Sutherland. Donald is, of course, Kiefer's father. Donald Sutherland. Kiefer Sutherland. Sure, he just likes Kiss. Oh, Kiefer also likes to hide his hand. He's got his hand in the cookie jar, also known as his jacket, and he's doing the hidden hand of a Freemason. Phil Collins and his daughter, Lily Collins. Oh, it's just it's a sweet father-daughter dance. We should just call him Brother Collins, because, the Masons own him. Truly. When I say that, they lay public claim to him, and he is open to that. He allows that. He is enthusiastically one of them. But who would have guessed? It's not like there were any clues throughout the years that he would have been on that checkerboard, on the square, on the checkerboard floor. No clues. Except maybe when he's doing like peekaboo. But who doesn't play peekaboo with the cameraman? Everybody does that. Here's his daughter, Lily Collins. Covering up her eyeball. Here she is again. Covering up her eyeball. Disney. Yes, we're back to Disney. Again, that's a lot of free advertising, wouldn't you say? Seems to me that it's an integral propaganda wing from the bowels of hell that is Hollywood. Do you believe in magic in a young girl's heart? Fantasia. Hee hee, I'm Mickey. Let me wave my wand. It's so cutesy. Lily Collins again. Ozzy! Mr. Crowley. What went down in your head? Oh, I don't know, man. I think you probably would know. Yeah. And Sharon Osbourne, American Idol judge, if you probably remember her most as that. Ozzy, of course. Ozzy's doing the eye exam. And they have a daughter. I didn't even look into their son. I'm sure we'd find the same thing. Here's Kelly. Do you notice how this is what Will Smith was doing earlier? No, but I'm sure it's a Taylor Swift. No. A tattoo artist came up with it. A 21-year-old tattoo artist came up with it. Man, they have gaslighted the daylights out of humanity. Wake up, and I don't mean ascend. I mean, wake up, tick-tock, time is coming. Make a choice. Truly. You better accept Jesus, man. I mean, I can't make that warning more clear. That's the only answer. You're not gonna open up your third eye and attain the super ultimate samadhi. Sorry. If you do, that's just the demons punking you. Oh, they'll punk you. What were Crowley's last words? I am perplexed. Are you now? What, did you have this idea that like you were about to reincarnate or something? Or witches like to believe that. I'm reincarnated. I have memories of being a 17th century witch. Burned at the stake. I was tortured in Salem. Really? I'm sure demons couldn't put that in your head. Strong delusion. Strong delusion. Hope you're following me. Hope my line of thinking's making sense. Oh, Kelly's a little kitty cat as well. I can't tell you how many times I see in these archives that they'll be wearing this and they go like, ow. No, it's so cute. So cute to know they have been put through hell. Sign of Hippocrates. Vow of silence. Secrecy in the occult. Snitches get stitches. Lenny Kravitz. Popular singer. Actually never really was. A lot of these people, I mean, I got into a lot of the bands in the 90s, but I never really understood him. I mean, I guess you can from a certain angle. He's kind of the 90s Jimi Hendrix is probably the best way to describe it. But I've never got why he was famous. Like Nirvana and all that, like I got into that and understood. But here he is with his daughter Zoe. Again, just start looking into the archives and stuff and you'll start to You start out like, oh yeah, it's totally a woman. And then a little later, you'll be like, sometimes I'm not so sure. And that happens an awful lot when you're doing this research. But that is Zoe. She's an actress. So that's Lenny doing the one-eyed symbolism for you. And here is Zoe covering up her eye with the peacock feather, right? Which is like the rose, like the sign of Harpocrates, an emblem for guess who? Guess who? It's just all a coincidence. That's all it is. Horus. In fact, you can even see one of the reasons why is because at the end of the peacock feather, it looks like an eyeball. It's one of the reasons why it's been associated. And also, it's very interesting. Crowley taught that the god of Thelema, of his system of magic and his religion, was the god of the Yazidis. And the god of the Yazidis had a messenger angel, is probably the best way to describe it, who's known as the peacock angel. By the way, the leopard as well, if you start to look into it, the leopard skin, the leopard print, is not only associated with sun worship, but of course it goes back to Egypt as well, which we've covered plenty of times in other videos. Sem priests of the Memphis, Egypt region, funerary priests used to do their rituals wearing the leopard skin. The Egyptians believed that the spots on the leopard's coat represented the stars in the sky. And isn't it interesting that they refer to themselves as stars? And isn't it also interesting that Aleister Crowley taught that you're all a star in orbit? You should just do what you willed. But he taught you that you're a star. Interesting. I'm sure they just came up with that name kind of like Hollywood, just kind of, I don't know, by chance. It's all a coincidence, after all. There's Zoe again, covering up her eye with the pearls. Keith in Lily Allen. Keith is a Welsh actor. Lily is a singer. Here's Keith. The little one eye winky wink. Lily covering up half her face. Telling you she's got a secret. We're going to wrap up here soon. We only got a few more. Lily's laying on the checkerboard floor. Gosh, we never see that either. I see that just as often as we see the leopard print. Frankly, just as often as we see any of the other symbols. Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, who frankly, when he introduced Liv Tyler to us with Alicia Silverstone, remember that? Crazy. Oh man, I had a crush on both of them. I was the target audience as a teenage boy. But when you think about it as you grow up, you start to realize, like, well, what father would, like, put their teenage daughter in their video sexualizing them? It's kind of weird. But you know, Hollywood. Steve's apparently got a secret. Secret. They got a secret. Arwen, Liv, one-eyed symbolism, doing the hidden hand of a Freemason. Now, we don't have the reference books. The reference materials that we have that were published centuries ago with graphics and diagrams of the different poses within Freemasonry are limited to men. But you can bet your bottom dollar that in like Order of the Eastern Star and such, that any of their signs and symbolisms would be identical, essentially. Covering up her eyeball with a flower. I think we're going to wrap up here soon. Michael Jackson, though. The king of pop, who had that, remember that awkward, weird marriage to, what's her name? Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's daughter. Because, of course, Elvis was the king of pop, right? Well, anybody who had a couple brain cells never bought that marriage, and they never bought the other ones that he's been in either. Like, no one's ever been convinced, unless you're like a brainwashed devotee, that like Michael Jackson was into women. I'm not even sure that Michael Jackson could, I don't know, could even function as a male. There's the doctor that was brought up for administering the drugs that killed him has made claims that like he was a castrato, that he was castrated. And you know, the dude did retain a pretty high voice throughout his life, and was never interested in groupies or girls or anything. His brothers were, but he himself wasn't. Just a weird, but he's got a couple kids, a son and a daughter who totally look like him. Now, there's nothing wrong. I mean, if you adopt it or whatever else, just say it. Don't ask all of us to just pretend as though these are like biological children of Michael Jackson. So that's Paris Jackson, right? On the cover of ID magazine, doing the one-eyed symbolism. And here is Paris Jackson with the Voodoo Vive tattooed on the inner portion of her elbow. And this is something that one would use to conjure demons, spirits in Haitian voodoo. Here's her brother. This is totally normal, right? Like all your brothers and sisters, they got all this stuff too, right? We didn't grow up in Hollywood, but like, oh yeah, all my family members have like Horus tattooed on the left, on your left, on his left too. And Anubis, the god of the dead in Egyptian mythology, on the right. Everybody, right? You know, and your sister has like the Voodoo Vive and then the chakras tattooed down the front. And like your cousins are like Willow and Jaden. They started their own little secret society, and they're so unique and special, right? That's how your family works? No? Weird. And then that's the tattoo on Prince Jackson. Prince Jackson's elbow. This is an Egyptian ankh, which is a symbol for regeneration or continuance of life, especially in the afterlife. So that's why, when they all of this is dressed up anyway in the accoutrements of Egypt. And so when you see the pharaohs with the scepter and then the ankh with their arms crossed in the pose of Osiris risen, you find the mummies put out the same way. It's all about like they believe. That's why witches believe the same thing. Talk to any witch. Like they believe that they're going to be reincarnated. Right? That's where it comes from. It's just because the reason why there's so much crossover between, what this occult school teaches and what that occult school teaches is because it's the same demons teaching them. Straight up. Same demons. Nothing new under the sun. He's a liar and the father of all lies. But anyway, that's it for today. And I think we're gonna go out with some Jason Upton as well. But I have to find the right. I gotta figure out what I'm even doing here. And then I'll look at the room just to see if I missed anything. But generally, we've already been at this for pretty long. It actually ended up being a little longer than I wanted it to be. What's going on? Okay, there we go. Well, let's just end with what we started with. All right, well, let me bring this up.
There's a power in poverty that breaks principalities and brings the authorities down to their knees. And at the same time in this world, there's a brewing frustration and ageless temptation.
God bless you guys.
Fight for control by
Sorry this was so long, man.
But the God of the kingdoms and God of the nations, the God
If anybody's got any questions here at the end, toss them in the next couple minutes while this plays, and I'll try to do my best. Thanks, Michelle. I had to like cut it off at a certain point. We actually could have gone on quite a bit with more examples. Yeah, no, I agree. Somebody said it's all Kabbalah or Kabbalah. Generally speaking, yeah. This is Poverty by Jason Upton.
God on the throne with a child in his arms and love in his eyes and the sound of his heart.
Somebody asked any thought on coronavirus being planted. I'll just say, planted or not, I mean, it's obviously advancing their globalist agenda.
The sound of your heart.
Clear as day, you know.
We want to hear the sound. The sound of your heart calling our name.
Somebody said no Billie Eilish symbolism, no Justin Bieber symbolism. Justin was in this one. Yeah, Billie Eilish is filled with. But I'm not gonna. I could tack them on here at the end, but they're super. Those are like. Justin Bieber and Billie Eilish are low-hanging fruit when it comes to, if you want to find this stuff, you'll find the symbolism.
The sound of your voice calling our name.
Andrews, you're asking for the name of a model. It could have been Kai Gerber, K-A-I-A-G-E-R-B-E-R, or Cara Delevingne, perhaps. They all look like. You know, isn't that funny? And we've wondered why. Doesn't it seem like Hollywood celebrities always like marry or date exclusively other Hollywood celebrities? All in the family, man. You don't gotta explain anything to another initiate. Come on, Warp. Don't. All right. So that was Poverty by Jason Upton. You can get that on his album Live from Dublin. It's a good song. I've always enjoyed Jason Upton. Not much more to say today. Hopefully I pointed people in the right direction. Hopefully maybe some eyes were opened in this. Father God, please use this broadcast to open up the eyes of anyone who watches it, to bring them to your son Jesus, so that they may have eternal life. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So God bless you all in Jesus' name. You guys have a wonderful day. Until next time.